Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Now my other two weapons in Lego video went really well, so I've decided to make a third one, and this time we'll be focusing on the weapons from the popular game CSGO. I play it myself, if you've seen probably some gameplay on my channel. Anyway, we're going to start with the pistols and move on from there. First up we have the USPS, and now this is the silence pistol that you get at the beginning of the game. Now here we just need a Clone Wars pistol and a black lightsaber hilt. Just stick it on the end like a silencer, and here you have a counter-terrorist wielding his USPS. Another terrorist weapon up next, we have the alternate for the USPS. We have the P2000. It's just a grey Clone Wars weapon, Clone Wars pistol, and here you see another counter-terrorist having it equipped. Next up we have probably the hardest one to make, which was the Glock, which is basically the terrorist starting weapon, and I just used a black Clone Wars pistol, but it isn't quite the right color. You need a brown pistol, and that just doesn't exist in Lego. Up next we have the dual Berettas. This is also quite simple to make. You just need two hose pieces, like light gray hose pieces, and then you just hold them in each hand. Here you can see a counter-terrorist with dual Berettas. Next up we have my favorite pistol, the P250. Now this, you're going to need a sort of rare weapon piece, which is the submachine gun from Indiana Jones, and you just equip it. It looks almost perfect. Now we have the three interchangeable weapons. First up we have the Z75. You need a hand and a Clone Wars pistol. Then you just sort of stick it there to have that upside down mag, and here you can see a terrorist wielding the ZZ. Now terrorists can actually swap out the ZZ for the Tech 9, and that's also relatively easy to make. You need a black hose piece and a black like little wrench kind of piece, and you just stick it on the front, and here you have your terrorists with the Tech 9. Counter terrorists on the other hand swap it for the 5.7, and the sleek shape of the 5.7 was kind of hard to get, but then I realized you could just do it with a normal Star Wars blaster. So here you have your counter-terrorist with the 5.7. Up next we have probably the biggest of the pistols, the Desert Eagle, and to get this huge size pistol you're going to need this peg and a grey hose piece or silver hose piece, and you just stick it on the end, and there you have your extremely powerful hand cannon. A possible replacement for the Desert Eagle is the R8 revolver, which I have very simply just made using an old Indiana Jones revolver, which fits very nicely. The new revolvers don't look as well though. We start off the submachine guns with the Mac 10. To get this long mag that comes out the bottom, we have a wrench piece that is attached to a black hose piece, and then a grey hand for the strap at the front that the terrorists hold on to. Here you can see the terrorists with the Mac 10. Now the counter-terrorists can't use the Mac 10, instead they have the MP9 to replace it. The MP9, you're going to need a hand piece, basically the same pieces from the Mac 10 except with a black hand, and you organize them slightly differently, and it ends up looking a lot more like an MP9 than a Mac 10. Next up we have the MP7. Now to build this you're gonna need a Star Wars blaster pistol and two black hands. One black hand will go at the front to be the forward grip, and the other black hand will be the tiny little stock that is at the back, and here you can see our friend using it. Next up we have the UMP45. And to make this you're going to need a cone piece, Clone Wars pistol, a wrench piece, and a black hand. Kind of stick it all together. It ends up being sort of too short, but it's still reasonably sized, and everything is slightly off scale. Moving on we have the P90. Now this was rather hard to make as well. To do it I used a hose piece and a binoculars. You stick the binoculars on the front of the hose piece, and then you turn the entire thing around so the binoculars are at the front, and you get pretty much the same profile as a P90, however it's not very good. Our final SMG is the PP Bison. Now this took a lot of pieces and a lot of thinking to get working right, and I only had this tube in gray, so preferably you would swap it to black. Ends up being slightly too oversized, especially compared to the UMP, but it does get the general shape right. After the SMGs we move over to the heavies. So we start with the Nova. For this I used from Indiana Jones in the Western Lego. You just have a normal rifle which fits the Nova profile very well. The XM on the other hand has slightly more tactical look, so we had to actually use some Lego pieces to build this one, and you can do that with a Clone Wars weapon, a lightsaber hilt, and then a little wrench piece just at the back, and here you can see a terrorist wielding the XM. The counter-terrorists can also use the Mag 7 shotgun, and this has a very square shape, so we used a brick-built blaster here, as well as a cone for the slightly more pointy front of it. And here you can see the counter-terrorists firing the Mag 7. The terrorists get the sawed-off instead of the Mag 7, and for this I used the revolver, a brown cone piece, and a brown telescope piece, and then you get something about the same shape as the sawed-off, and here you can see a terrorist using the sawed-off. Now the heavy weapons don't just consist of shotguns, they also have some heavy machine guns, and we have first up the M249. You need some green pieces and then all of these other pieces. Just put them together as so, and then it actually looks a lot like the M249 itself over there. Finally we have the Negev. Now you need similar pieces to the M249, however it's slightly sleeker, plus it has a little handle on the side, and the good thing is you can actually make your minifigure hold this side handle, which looks really cool. Finally today we will be looking at the rifles, and we start off with the FAMAS. For this you need a lot of these little black wrench pieces as well as binoculars and a black hose piece, and then you put them together and you sort of get what looks like a FAMAS. I actually think it turned out pretty well, and here you can see a counter-terrorist using it, and also from the other side. There you go. Instead of the FAMAS, the terrorists have the Galil. And to make the Galil you're going to need Clone Wars pistol, black lightsaber handle, and 2 wrenches. And you use 1 wrench to make the stock and 1 to make the mag, and then just the barrel using the lightsaber. And here you can see the terrorist wielding his Galil. Next up we have our first sniper rifle, the SSG. To make this you need one of those rifles that can clip things to the top. Then you need 2 grip pieces, and you attach them like a tiny bipod. I know it isn't exactly the same as the bipod in the game, but I think it's pretty close. You can always remove them. Counter-terrorists have 2 main assault rifles, and the first is the M4A4, and you need all these pieces over here. There's a lot of them, and then you get this. I use the peg at the front for the real thick barrel that the M4A4 has, and here you can see a counter-terrorist shooting the M4A4. Now they can also choose the M4A4's silenced brother, M4A1S, and for this you need a Star Wars blaster rifle, a silencer made from a lightsaber, and then just a mag. And it actually looks very nice. Here you can see it with the silencer. Of course, in the cases you might want to remove the silencer, you can do that like so. The terrorists only have 1 choice for their main assault rifle, and that is the AK-47. Now if you watched my whole video a while back, you already know how to make this. Star Wars blaster, the tap piece, 2 brown pieces, and the mag, and here you can see the terrorist wielding his AK-47. If you want to do some slightly more controlled spraying, you can use a marksman's rifle like the SG-553. This you need a Star Wars blaster, basically a stuff for the mag and the stock and the barrel, kind of extend it, and then here you can see a terrorist using his SG. Counter-terrorist alternative for the SG is the AUG. Now I didn't have the exact right colors. It would have been better if I had green and all of that, but I just didn't have that available, so this is the best color I could do for the AUG, but it looks pretty close to the actual thing. Next we have probably the most overused weapon in CSGO, the AWP, and to make this you're going to need a lot of pieces because the thing is huge, but then in game it's also quite big. It's probably the biggest weapon in the game, and here I cranked up the size even more. It might be a little oversized. Sometimes you can't aim for shit, so you're gonna need to use a different weapon than a sniper, and you're gonna use something like the SCAR 20, which is a semi-auto sniper. You can just sort of spray, and you're gonna, it's slightly smaller than the AWP. It has a distinct rectangular mag and a very bulky feel, which I think I recreated relatively good here, as well as the large scope. The SCAR still takes some effort. The terrorists don't want to do that, and they just have a full auto sniper, the G3, and this has a similar design, but it's slightly sleeker and the mag is slightly larger. And here you can see the terrorist using his favorite little gun, the gay gun. Now, of course, one of the main things from CSGO is the skins. Don't worry, those can also be implicated very easily by just changing the color of various pieces, like this nice purple translucent AK. Of course, you can also paint them. Now, of course, these skins don't apply to grenades, and this is actually how you make a frag grenade. It's quite hard because you need to make it rounded, but it sort of ended up still kind of blockish, but close, and here you can see a terrorist throwing a frag grenade. Next up we have a flash or decoy grenade. They look so similar I made them a one thing, and to make this you can very simply just use a lightsaber hilt. It's the perfect shape, although not exactly the perfect color. Here we can see a counter-terrorist about to flash. Next up we have the smoke grenade. Now ideally we would use a chrome cylinder, but I didn't have that, so I just used a gray cylinder, and then you put a like the kind of wrench piece in the top, and then you can see this terrorist about to throw smoke. Next up we have the incendiary grenade. Now this is either a red or an orange canister. I thought it was sort of reddish, so I used a red cylinder, and then just same as smoke grenade, you put it in the top and you have got yourself a nice incendiary grenade, and it's only used by the counter-terrorists. Of course, the terrorists have a Molotov. Now, ideally you would use dark green see-through pieces or a normal bottle, but I didn't have those pieces. So you can also use some black cone and a black cylinder on top of each other with a flame piece stuck in the end, because of course when you throw it, it's being ignited, and here you can see a terrorist about to throw a Molotov. We get into some extras. We have a C4 explosive. Now you can use any dark tan piece, but I had one printed with a little gray thing, so I thought that fitted nicely. Of course we have the knife. You're bound to have some knives if you're making like a CSGO kind of mock thing. So that's just a normal Lego knife, which is then held here by a CT person about to stab someone maybe. Now the very last one for today is the karambit knife, since it's quite different from the other knives. And for this I used a golden tooth piece for a golden karambit, and here you can see the terrorist wielding it. Well guys, I hope you learned how to make some of your favorite CSGO weapons, and do leave in the comments below which one you thought was nice and which one you thought maybe could be worked on a little. And don't forget to click right over there to subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And if you want to see some other videos, I have some Battlefront weapons and Clone Wars weapons tutorials. You can click right over there. Anyway guys, thank you all very much for watching, and see you next time.